our members who's online. So Harmony, will you take a roll call, please?
Director Bradley.
Here.
Director Brems.
Here.
Director Cardenas.
Here.
Director Daly.
Here.
Director Keegley.
Here.
Director Litvak.
Here.
Director Olson. Director Peterson.
Here.
Director Kokopis.
Here.
Director Silvestrini. Director Stevenson.
Here.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment? This morning.
Good morning, welcome. I don't know if my stand or set. Not really prepared. Introduce myself, I guess. Robbie, I am union civilian representative for the civilian staff of Unified Police. Employee. The civilian staff just wanted to give you guys a token of appreciation. We understand the work that you guys are doing on behalf of UPD and their employees. We're very appreciative of the 10% increase that we received. It doesn't happen often. We appreciate that recognition. So we've got civilian staff. Show yourselves, come on. I got nominated for one because of Rudy Call, I guess. It really does go a long way. We appreciate it. And look
This
forward
is
to
clever.
continued work.
Thank you. Well, thank you to our civilian staff. Thank you for all your dedication and hard work to UPD. We do our best with the budget, and we were happy to be able to bring you up to appropriate salary levels. And thank you for all your hard work and dedication to our organization. And thanks for coming today. This is a nice breakfast treat. Thank you. The board comment? Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next agenda items. I believe Carrie is online, and we are going to be introducing our new White City Metro Township representative. Carrie, I believe you're at the airport, so I hope this works out.
I'll do my best. There could be a lot of announcements behind me, and I'm having it face this way because I'm looking at something that says beer, bistro, and bites, and I didn't want to have everybody think I'm celebrating my vacation prematurely. So, first of all, we received this week a resolution of appointment from White City for Philip Cardenas, and he is duly appointed to the board already. But that is the effective a document for his appointment, but just wanted to acknowledge that and welcome him to the UPD board. And I think the chief may have a few words, and but that everything is in order, and he is now officially a member and able to vote today and henceforth.
Wonderful, thank you. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you.
Would you like to make any comments this morning?
Really, I mean, just it seems like a fun and very there's a lot going on with UPD right now, so exciting to kind of be a part and kind of know what's going on and have a say representing White City.
Wonderful. Welcome to our board, and thank you for your service. So take the opportunity also to thank Mayor White for her service on the board previous to this, but we welcome you to the board. We'll move on to our next agenda item, committee assignments. Harry, you're up again.
All right. So as you know, I don't know if member Philip Cardenas knows this, but most of the members of the board serve on a committee. There are 3 standing committees. They are governance, budget and finance, and employment benefits and compensation. And I think there would probably be room for a member on any of those. I don't know if he has a particular interest, but that's an item to put him on a committee if he so chooses. So just would ask him and the board for guidance on that, and whichever committee he would like would be great. And I'm going to go on mute now.
Sorry, so there were 3 different committees that were,
Yeah, there are, if you look in your packet, sir, there's a number of boards and committees that you could join. We have a governance committee, budget and finance committee, and a benefits and compensation committee. And then we have a couple others that are not standing committees. One's legal valuation committee, the interlocal committee, and the departure negotiating committee. And we would welcome your participation in any of those boards. If you don't want to make a decision right here, right now, we're happy to take that information from you when you've had an opportunity to consider it.
great, maybe I'll ask for, to talk with you afterwards, just kind of see where it might need to be filled the most.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay.
So Harry, we'll circle back on that item and figure out appropriate committee assignments once there's been an opportunity for consideration. Okay, all right. All right, we will move on to our UPD update, and I know the sheriff is also online today, and we'll turn the time to her.
Okay, good morning. And I do want to welcome Director Cardenas. We look forward to working with you. And we will set up some meetings so we can meet in person and help you get up to speed on UPD. A couple of things I want to talk about first is some recognitions. We had the Metro Gang Conference, Gang Unit Conference, and Jerry Valdez, one of our UPD detectives, was actually nominated and he received the Metro Gang Detective of the Year award. This is a huge award because this is an award that comes from their peers. So just wanted to show recognition to Jerry for all the work he does. I'll send out to the board the nomination, and they did list some specific cases that he worked on, and just so you have that information, but just an incredible job from Jerry and the whole Metro Gang unit. Also, UPD received the Agency of the Year award from VFAST from the U.S. Marshals for their participation in VFAST. Many of you may not even know what they do with VPAS, but our major cases, violent offenders who have felony warrants, that is the team that goes out and picks up those dangerous individuals. And this year UPD received that award, so we're really proud of that. I'll also send out the information to you on that. But just some good work by our teams. A couple of other things. We did receive a JAG grant, $54,482. Those grants are specific what we can use them for. So we did submit a request to purchase shields, update our interview room surveillance. Much of the money went towards body armor for our SWAT. That's how we rotate their body armor. And gas masks, K9 rifle shields. And typically we try to use it for those type of items, so we don't have to put that in your budget and have you pay for those. So if we can find grants to pay, that's typically what we would do. So if you have any questions on that grant, we're happy to answer any questions for you. And we usually get the money every year, but we don't know how much until we actually get the grant approved and get the dollar amount. So, and it is funneled through Salt Lake County. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the salary increases. I know our civilian staff is there, and I'm grateful they were there to thank you. But I do want to let you know that even with a 10% increase, our civilians are still very underpaid. So we're going to continue to take a look at that throughout the year so we can present to you at budget time how far under paid they are. So I'm glad they're here, and I'm glad they got the 10%, but I just want to make sure that you're aware that did not bring them up to where they need to be. And that'll be something that we'll bring up during the budget process. And then lastly, we're working on the CFO, a new CFO. We have contracted with Lisa Dudley, and she's staying on until we can get somebody in place. And we will update you on that later on in this meeting. But want to thank Lisa for her dedication to the UPD and continuing to assist us. And that is all I have for my update. Well, actually, I have one more thing. We have taken a look at a review done by the IACP. The IACP does studies and reviews on police departments. And we've taken a look at the one that they have done for Salt Lake City several years ago. And that is something that we would like to start looking at and maybe pursuing to see how much they would charge to take a look at the UPD. And it's a really good report that they provided. And I'm happy to send the one that we have over to the board, from Salt Lake City, the one that became public information. I can send that. If you want to take a look at it, if the board would consider maybe funding that this next year, I think it would be really helpful. Or, the board could, anybody on the board could suggest that maybe each one of you take money out of your fund balance to fund it, because it does cost quite a bit of money, but it might be worth it to answer all the questions that people have on, are we appropriately staffed? Are we, do we have enough employees? Are we managing our units correctly? Those kind of things. But I just need direction from, not really direction from you, just whether or not you'd support something like that. So it wouldn't be a vote. It's just asking if you're wanting us to pursue something like that, we're happy to.
Jared, can you explain the acronym?
International Chief of Police. I think I got that right, didn't I, Maz?
Yes.
Okay.
National Association Chiefs.
Oh yeah, International Association Chiefs of Police. And they do it all across the country, these reviews.
And do you have a sense of cost, or is that something you'll bring back to the board once you're able to ascertain it?
Yeah, we would have to bring that back. I don't have an idea, but I would probably say in the 40,000 maybe range. I'm not sure, but that's what we would pursue. We would, contact them, ask them how much it would cost to review the UPD and see if it's something that, we can bring back to the board, and we would include what it is they would review and do an evaluation on.
Well, I'll open that up for conversation with the board.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, especially if you're bringing it to us. It's obviously something that's important to you. You said you could provide the previous one that got done, that had the details kind of, because I'm just curious as what it entails and what information that you'd be looking for that you want to do a new one.
The one that was done was not for UPD. It was for Salt Lake City Police Department. So we would have to take a look at if that one is public information, we can provide that.
Okay.
I know that I was going to talk about this other business at the end of our meeting, but had a conversation with Chief Matz yesterday about this, and with Harry, with the idea of talking about this at our next board meeting. I do think it would be great to start getting quotes on something like that from the IACP, and I think just also seeing if there are other options out there, if this is the best one for us, but just seeing what options exist to do that kind of review.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Well, yeah, I'm very much in support of it, and more so what the timelines are going to be, because if we are going to do it, I would like to, my own personal opinion is we should get on it very quickly so that we're able to have that information by, say, February, March timeframe available to us as we start the budgeting process.
I concur.
And at least for me in particular, I'm more interested in
Well, maybe it's not appropriate for this meeting, but when we get the information available, we can then pick and choose or detail out what we want them to look at, not just the whole broad scope. We can say, this is really what we'd like you to focus on. I guess my other question is, yeah, who's doing this? Is it a neutral? Is it a neutral body that's kind of from the outside looking at the organization?
Yeah, I can answer that. So the International Association of Chiefs of Police has a group of people that do this independently. They're not affiliated with the organization. They're studying, they're law enforcement professionals with deep operational administrative experience. They would come in and they would do an analysis of the department, its resources, its staffing, the way that it utilizes its resources, and they look at all different operational angles. It's not necessarily a financial review of the department, but looks at it from an operational perspective, and then makes recommendations on, hey, you're doing this well, continue to do that. In our opinion, you need to change this. And it's pretty detailed. And the beauty of it is that it's very independent, it's very objective, but it's people that understand the industry and understand what nationwide industry standards are. And so they come in and they look at it through that lens, and it's a really good study.
So it is based on national standards.
Correct.
Okay.
They look
Do
at
we,
the
do we
whole
know,
picture.
do we know, Chief, if that's realistic in terms of timeline? I have no idea how long it takes, but I guess my comment to the board would be, I'm interested in getting on this as quickly as we can, so we have the information for budgeting season. Otherwise, it's really going to not be of much value to us. At least that's my opinion.
I agree, and that's what I can't answer is in terms of the cost and the length of time. My recollection from the city, and I don't know if you know, Kale, because you and I have been talking about this for years. Kale, you know, remember how long it took?
You know, I know that they had people in doing interviews for, a week to 2 weeks, and then they compile all the data and then generate the report. So they were
Yeah.
physically here doing the audits.
Yeah, it would take some time, but when, as soon as I get the green light from the board and the sheriff, we can start that process right away. Chief Ackerman and I will be meeting with ICP in October. We can sit down and discuss that with them. We can start even before that, as soon as, if that's the direction you want to go. Myself and other chiefs have been talking about this for a long time. From an internal perspective, we think it would be good too. We would love to get some feedback from that big picture perspective and gauge where we're at with that.
We're on board.
Does that include an interview with the board as well?
It could. What's going to be really interesting is UPD is very unique. And so they're going to have to come in and they're going to have to kind of really look at it through a different lens than they do other traditional departments. But they do this with agencies across the country. So they're very experienced in doing it.
There's support from the board to explore it further, understand the scope, understand the cost, understand the timeline. Did I miss anything?
This is Carolyn. This is Carolyn Kegley. I would definitely support this with everything that's been going on lately. When we're looking at Savisa's budget, when we're looking at other issues dealing with UPD's policing budget and whatnot. But I would like to jump on this as soon as possible as well.
So perhaps return to the board in September with a proposal and a cost estimate.
Done.
Hopefully we can work on the costing a little bit in advance, so perhaps we could approve that in September.
We'll get on it right away.
Okay,
Okay,
excellent.
thank
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks.
Anything else from you, Sheriff, on the general UPD update?
No, that was it. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the introduction of the fund balance policy. Sheriff, I have you noted as the presenter here.
Yes, I sent out the UPD fund balance policy draft to the board. What we are looking for is for the board to review. This is the first go around with the draft. We really used Lisa Dudley's experience to create this policy, but we need the board's input. And if you'll just send it to me, I can have it all compiled, make some changes, and we would like to bring it to the finance committee at the next finance committee, if possible, so we can move this along. And maybe the next board meeting, either have a vote or another discussion on it, but you should have all received that draft policy, and just know it's not our opinion, it's just a draft. It's something that we, got together and said, if this works, then, let's push this forward, but we have to start with something. It's not set in stone.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Would anybody from the board like to comment? I know I've had the opportunity to review and reviewed it with my CFO from Salt Lake County as well, so I have some thoughts. Is anyone else from the board prefer to discuss it a little bit today, or should we wait till the finance committee?
I'll just express that extremely thankful that UPD staff jumped right on this. I mean, this is an issue that Bill has raised, and really appreciate them putting this together. I think the one kind of question we had with it, Sheriff, I don't know if you're able to answer this, was just the 8.5% floor on that, and just if that came from any particular area. The only other comment is, I think anything that Midvale's looking for from that policy is just making sure that we have flexibility in our own precinct.
So would it be, I mean, the way I would understand this then is the precinct fund balances are still going to be at the precinct level. We can determine how we want to manage our own fund balances. So this is going to apply to the shared services component of the budget. Is that correct? Just specifically? We're not talking about the 8.5% and 15% applying to the precincts, are we?
Well, I'm not clear on
I
that
am-
either. We're
I
talking about the
understand that
Special
you did.
revenue fund, aren't we?
It does.
Which is the-
That was my understanding, and maybe I misread it.
No, that is in the draft, but you create the policy. So however you want it, you just need to let us know. This is just the first shot at it. The number, the 8.5 was just a suggestion by Lisa. But like I said, we can change anything that the board wants changed. And we just need to know, we need your feedback so we compile all of your feedback and get an actual policy that we can present to you, or another draft. So we can keep tweaking it until it's what you want.
Let me just ask one question. We are talking about the special revenue fund, which is the aggregate, which is the fund that goes to the precinct level. Is that correct? Number one.
And the general fund piece.
You are correct in that the special revenue fund is the precinct.
Yes.
So it
So
applies
it's-
to both.
Now,
It's currently
in this
proposed as the
policy, it
policy
says,
for
though,
both.
that if that special revenue fund, which is attached to a precinct, falls below the target of 8.5%, the precinct is responsible to show how they're going to build it back up to that target. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of the read of the
I
policy.
just needed clarification.
Well, yeah, I guess my only question is, and I guess maybe the finance committee can go through it, but I know we were having a debate before about the precinct fund balances and whether we wanted any rails on that or not. Beyond what is a legislative requirement, which is 5% and 35% right now, right? At least it's 35% after the COVID thing. Is the board okay with having a policy that restricts our ability at the precinct level to go above that 15%? I know that was an issue before, because some of the precincts wanted to manage their own fund balances in accordance with what their needs are. Now, I don't see a real reason for precincts to inappropriately build fund balance. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I think that's something, maybe the finance, maybe that's not a point here, but I can see that in the shared services component, which is what I think Lisa was concerned with, was now that the fund balances are shifting to the precincts, that she still had legislative obligation to make sure she maintained her minimum fund balances in the shared services component of UPD. But I think that's an issue maybe precincts ought to consider and give some feedback to the finance committee before they wrestle with that on September 6th, I think. Is it, or is that benefits? It's on September 6th.
September 6th is the
Finance committee. So anyway.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the 8.5%, but I think the members ought to maybe go back and see if the 15% cap's okay, and if it is,
Yeah.
fine, but if not, then come up with a number that they do think is appropriate, or just say, we just want it to be what the legislative cap is right now, which is 35%.
Okay. So I'm hearing a little bit of a differentiation between the general fund, which is for our shared services, and our special revenue fund, and perhaps treating those independent of each other as it relates to the policy. Is that, am I articulating that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's right.
When I spoke to our chief financial officer, I think he felt that 8.5 might be a bit low for a minimum. He and I discussed possibly 10. And I think that's just based on the volatility of and what we've experienced over the last few years around the instability of the agency. And so I think he was looking to be a little bit more conservative on the minimum side. And I think we weren't necessarily separating the two. We were talking generally about both. So that was our perspective, but if the board wants to separate those issues and talk about them more, then I think it would allow each agency to make those determinations for themselves about where their comfort level is and how conservative they'd like to be. So, is there any other feedback from the board or any other questions from the board that you'd like to discuss now? Otherwise, I think we will take this issue up at the finance committee. I know we have a set finance committee, but we always welcome any of our members to attend who'd like to listen in or send a representative. Perhaps someone from your municipality that is your fiscal person or yourself. Okay. Sheriff, I think you've heard some initial input about some of the questions and the thoughts of the board. And we will ask anyone who'd like to, prior even to finance committee, if you have feedback you'd like to give, please send that to the sheriff in advance so we can have all of that information compiled for the conversation at the finance committee, which is on September 6th. So prior to September 6th would be appreciated. All right. Anything else on that item?
Nope. Thank you.
Sheriff.
Thanks.
All right, I want to check in quickly here with Harry. I know that we would like him to be here for our closed session. What's your time frame looking like, Harry? And would you like to amend our agenda to move into closed session prior to our other items?
Yeah, I'm still okay for about I would say about a half hour. So maybe moving into closed session soon wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay, I think we don't have a lot of items left, so we'll go ahead and stay on our agenda and we'll monitor
Okay.
that time. Thank you, sir. All right, next item is acceptance of donations. Chief Mazur.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. Come on up, Rich, get in the hot seat. Bring one of your little machines with you. This donation is from our great allies and friends for UPD Canine. And I don't know if you want to cue that up real quick. It's for a DJ Mavic Enterprise Advanced Flight System, or a drone, which is what Rich is going to show you. I'm just going to take 2 or 3 minutes here because I really think you should see this beautiful marriage of technology and law enforcement and how much safer it makes us. And I have a couple examples if you'll look at the screen here. This was a stolen vehicle in a pursuit, and you can see the drone has a spotlight, it's got speaker, it's got FLIR, it's got different, but what it's able to do is we're able to fly that drone out, locate a suspect, and before the officers ever approach, we can see, you know, what's in their hands, we can make sure it's not an ambush, and then it makes it really safe for our officers to approach. And what happens is you have a pilot like Rich, who's our sergeant of the unit. He's done a fantastic job getting it set up. There's a pilot, and then there's a spotter with that pilot that's got radios communicating with these officers and telling me exactly what they see. I think what's more impressive, when I go to the next video, is the FLIR option that this has. So now you see it's pitch black, but what you can see is the suspect is lying on the ground. It's so sensitive, you can even see his heat signature that he's left on the grass. And this is where the drone has really helped us out, is in these dark or completely obscured conditions where it's really hard to see anything, but the drone can go in and can see everything that's in the suspect's hands. Can see exactly where he's at if they're following commands. And, you know, you can see again the heat signature on the ground where he's lying. If it's a vehicle, you can see when the engine compartment is hot or when it's cold, see if the vehicle's been driven. Makes it really helpful. If you want to go to video 3 real quick, Harmony, this really illustrates what I'm talking about.
I want to touch on this video really quick.
Yeah.
So that guy was laying 50 yards from us and he had no idea he was there until I put the drone on the side. So if he was armed potentially, we would have never known he was there.
It's interesting, the difference between the night vision and the other, because in the first one, when he reached down, it looked like he could have been reaching for a weapon, but he was just adjusting his shirt. But you could tell that difference in the other video.
Yeah, so this video, this is a real Where's Waldo kind of video where you can see some bushes there and you can see the dog, and you know, the dogs are wonderful tools. You can tell the dog's starting to alert on something. They can tell something's there, but you can't see anything, you know, from this perspective at night. And here's where it really gets interesting. This just came into play, it was a day or two ago. So Saturday, we were able to locate some suspects very rapidly. If you want to show video 4, this will show you the real power right here. This drone program.
Having fly it too.
Yeah. So now you can see in the middle of that thick bush where before you couldn't see anything, you can see there's a heat signature there. So the drone operators are really good at seeing that. Just share screen. So you look for those anomalies when they're out flying, and it can be really thick, deep cover. And these are always situations that are a little more dangerous for us because you know, what you can't see can hurt you. And the drone operator comes up and he pulls up on that, and the operator calls out, hey, you've got a signature there in the bush, in the middle of the bushes. And you can see the dogs alerting on it, but they couldn't see that guy. Dog starts to bark. So they know they've got something, but that bush was so thick and overgrown, they just had no idea he was in there. Again, with the FLIR capability, it's really a game changer for us. It's really helped us in terms of locating suspects and doing it really safely. I really see this as a great way to prevent ambushes, which have been happening with more frequency across the nation. Gain compliance. The drone also has a speaker. We had a case with a suicidal male, and they just flew the drone over to him and said, hey, stop that. Come with us, we'll help you. Without ever jeopardizing anybody. Advance that a little bit, Harmony, just so they can see him pulled out of there. There he is. You can see him come out of the bush. Lost his pants. That happens from time to time when you're running from the police. So anyway, I just want to show that to you guys and just let you know it's a great tool and it's a great donation.
So is the drone operator talking to the officer on the ground?
Yes.
They're in communication.
You have an operator, you have a spotter, and then they have a radio, and they are communicating everything they're seeing So, this instance we had the other night, one of the UTA officer was assaulted. Suspect ran away, they put the drone up within 60 seconds, the drone detected the heat signature. Just basically walked the officers right into it.
But the dogs missed.
And the dogs missed
Wow.
it, so. You combine K9, you combine this, you combine our officers and their experience, put all that together, it makes for a very powerful tool to protect the community. So,
How many does UPD currently have of those?
We have 7 of these, and then 2 older ones, and then 2 smaller ones that go inside, then a SWAT room.
So, and that's a good point, we can fly them outside, we can fly them inside buildings, and find people. So, it's a great safety tool. Anyway, thanks, Richard. Just want to share that with the board. I think it's more meaningful to actually kind of see what it's really about. So we appreciate that donation.
Seems the TV show depiction of these is not so far off. That's a wonderful gift. I'll entertain a motion from the board to accept this donation.
motion that we accept the gift.
Thank you.
Gratitude.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Good. Chair, I hope you don't mind me just jumping on real quick. My name is Randy Thomas. I'm also the president of Friends from UPD K9. It was established, I just want to kind of introduce ourselves. We've operated in the background for quite some time, since 2008. We originally were Friends for Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office K9. My vice president is April Morris, which ironically happens to be in charge of the program for not only K9, but the flight program. She's kind of the innovator of this. So we're proud to be a part of this donation. As you can see in that video from the K9 platform, our Friends for UPD K9, we bought over 12 dogs since we've been in service for not only the sheriff's office, but UPD. And we through all these donations, you look at that and what you may not recognize as not being a canine handler, when that handler is handling that dog, they do not have their hands on a weapon. So you can see the safety aspect of that. So when we saw this and the potential application, it's not only for canine safety, but it's overall officer safety. Where generally in the past, we've provided ballistics for the dogs, training for the handlers, cooling systems, canine hot popper systems for the vehicles. This was truly a kind of a different kind of option. But as you can see, it's going to make not only our canine handlers safer, but our officers much safer. So we did kind of adorn your spots there with some of our canine challenge coins. If you don't have one, let me know. And board member Kopis, Keegley, and Olson, I will see you in the future and get you one of these canine challenge coins. They do have a unique little bottle opener in the top for frosty beverages. So feel free to take that. Just a point of interest on the back of those challenge coins, there are 3 dogs depicted in there. 2 of those were lost in the line of duty, Dingo and Aldo. The other one is Lando, which is one of our canine dogs. We're real proud to have a part of our unit. So if you have any questions for myself or April, feel free.
Add one thing, just so you know, the drone operators, they are certified pilots through the FAA. They have to complete a 107 training. And then we do additional training here. We fly under a COA for UPD. So we're totally in federal regulation and compliance. We had our big training Friday where we licensed our pilots and gave them our drones. Since Friday, there's been a drone in the air every day since. It's just gonna keep growing.
This is my favorite coin. I have a lot of these, but I like this one the best, not because of the frosty beverages. Well,
It's a very unique coin.
yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your donations and your contributions to our agency.
I think Randy mentioned Friends of Canine is a 501c3, so we appreciate folks.
Thank you very much. That's my agenda. We'll move on to our surplus resolution. Chief.
Thank you. In your packets, you can see we have some surplus items, most of them again vehicles that are rotating out. And then on the back of that sheet, some additional random surplus items. And I do want to thank our fleet. They've done an unbelievable job of tracking down, locating vehicles as they rotate out. It's very, very hard right now to find cars, trucks, things like that. So they've built some wonderful relationships with dealers and Ford. And we're able to sneak in and grab some cars. They're keeping the wheels under, so we really appreciate it.
Who buys these total cars? Why?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But, I do know that we have a lot of people that do try to, buy the cars that are just surplus and they're still functional. I'm gonna go get them today. Trying to buy 2 of our old interceptors. So. But I can certainly find that out. And let you know.
You can see
Madam
which
Chair,
ones
I'll
they
make a
are.
motion to the items listed as surplus.
Wonderful.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Chief. Okay, agenda item number 9, our upcoming meetings. Again, noting the Budget and Finance Committee meeting on the 6th, here in this building and in this space. Any other meetings that were scheduled that I'm not aware of, committee meetings?
Madam Chair, we will be scheduling a meeting of the Governance Committee, but I don't have a date for that yet. I'll be coordinating with the members of that committee. It'll probably be sometime around early to mid-September.
Great. We'll watch for that. Thank you, Harry.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our last item before we go to closed session, approval of our June 16th and July 7th board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. We'll move on to item 11, which is a closed session for the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, and to discuss pending and reasonable imminent legislation. I'll entertain a motion to go to closed. Thank you. I need a roll call vote this time.
Director Bradley,
Closed session to go in.
Yes.
Director Brems. Director Cardenas.
Yes.
Director Valley. Director Keighley. You know you can just stop.
Aye.
Director Litvak. Director Peterson. Director Whitehead.
Aye.
Director Silvestrini.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, Harmony, I couldn't hear my name. I'm sorry. There was a lot of tables.
Wait until everyone's exited.